design stream, and this session is bringing deBlob to reality, and it's by Nick Hagger and Terry Lane. Nick has been working in the games industry for over a decade and is currently Blue Tongue's creative director. He's had a number of roles in game design and production and leads one of Blue Tongue's development teams. Has been the project director on a number of Blue Tongue's titles, including Jurrassic Park, Operation Genesis, Barnyard, and most recently deBlob. Terry Lane has been working as a video games artist since 1995. His first job as lead concept artist on the notorious PC smash Carmageddon gave him the opportunity to go and work as a modeller, animator, lead artist and creative director for 9 years before moving to Australia with his family. Today, Terry is studio art director at Blue Tongue for THQ, where he's helped them create titles like Nick Toons Unite, The Barnyard, and deBlob. Please welcome Terry and Nick.
Well, you know, in the tradition of great blaggers, we're going to kind of just ramble on through a discussion of Blob, and we've got some t-shirts to give away, so we really want you guys to ask us questions in case we kind of run out of things to say. I don't know, a lot of what we're here to talk about today kind of feels very self-evident, and one of those things that feels very natural to us now, but I think we learned a hell of a lot going through the whole process of making Blob. And so I kind of just get a sense of people who played it or seen the game or who liked it. Oh my god, hostile audience. But yeah, anyway, I think it's kind of an interesting thing for us to have gone through, just putting this together earlier this week, because we, I guess, talked through some of the things that we went through and kind of learned a lot of lessons along the way that I guess you might have questions about when we're talking about them, but you know, I think there's something for every developer in what we've kind of learned. So, the origins of Blob. Now, Blob started out as a Dutch student project. I'm sure many of you saw it. It was on a number of internet forums and then kind of celebrated at the Slamdance Game Festival. It was made by a student team in the city of Utrecht, and they were a really kind of cool bunch of guys. I've only really spoken to them on email, but we had some wonderful, wonderful sort of praise from those guys as well, because they love it and they really enjoyed what we've done with the game. So it started out as one of those beautiful kind of moments of serendipity when one of the THQ Studio Oz guys, John Cartwright, saw the game and started sending it around. We were talking about it, and Steve Dortman, who's there today representing us up the back, he got right behind it and championed getting this idea because THQ, as a publisher, was really excited about getting involved in doing innovative Wii titles. And there was something very, I think, very pure and very clean about the game design that these students had put forward that seemed kind of very fresh, very different, and seemed like a perfect sort of opportunity to do something fresh and interesting on Wii. So I still can't actually believe it happened. You know, I think we all have varying kind of nightmares of the way the publishing industry works, but this is one of those moments when everything sort of came together. And the legal team started talking to the school, and the school was very excited that a big publisher was wanting to get involved in the work that their independent developers had been doing. And so I think that it actually is one of the lessons that we learned is that never be too negative, never be kind of thinking that the industry is full of bad guys. It's actually full of a lot of really excited, interesting people who want these things to happen. And so one thing led to another. The school got some money and some development hardware, and the students have now set up their own development studio. They're releasing a game on WiiWare. I'm not sure if it's out yet. It's a side-scrolling up RTS, but it's quite fun to play. And of course, we inherited the IP, but the IP came with strings attached. The city wants to actually still use the IP as it's a kiosk demo because you're playing and rolling around in the actual map of Utrecht, the city. And so it's for tourists, right? So if you get lost, you can roll around as an alien kind of space blob and kind of find your way around the city. So we started with complete creative freedom, which is, I think, for all of us, a very rare thing in this industry. And we had a really kind of new game to design because we're working on a completely separate platform and having to come up with new mechanics. And also, we couldn't use the world because Blob is now the mascot for the city of Utrecht. And he's a funny-looking guy with his 3 eyeballs and kind of choked out tongue. But I think it was an opportunity for us all to sit back and think, well, how far can we take this? What are we going to do to make this an exciting and different experience for gamers out there. And I think that it's a daunting moment, and yet it's also a really exciting moment for any developer to be thinking completely freshly about something and not having to worry about a licensor or worry about making it fit within an existing franchise. So, okay, as it was a speculative IP, we had 1 year to make this game initially. Now, a 12-month development cycle is nothing to be particularly happy with, especially when you're coming to something fresh, and we had a fairly modest-sized team at that point. I think we had 24 people working on the project. We did have technology in place, but of course we had to design not only the gameplay, but also the art style, and also the kind of world and narrative and the whole kit and caboodle. And our initial ship date was January 2008, which meant the game was in submission in 2007, September. So that gives us roughly sort of 6 to 7 months of full development, pre-production through to bug fixing to sort of get it working. So that's actually a really short time and quite frightening. So I think the reason why I'm talking about the game in this particular scope is obviously we shipped September this year, and so we had an extension on the time frame. Is that a lot of the design decisions that we made very early on went on to become things that we had to live with and we had to work around. And so constraints put in place early on, I think, helped to manage the scope and shape the game in a way that was particularly helpful. Okay, so like I was saying, the ship date really dictated the game scope and prioritized our key design goals. So I think our number one thing was, what is this target audience? How are we going to make a Wii game? Because really at this point, the Wii still new. We had released a port of our game Barnyard for Wii, and we had gone through this, kind of exciting moment that everyone went through when they were picking up the Wii controller and going, man, we believe everything Nintendo says, and we're going to do everything we can to make it the most motion-controlled, crazy game experience. And Barnyard having a lot of different mini games in it meant that we played around with a whole lot of different control dynamics. And anyone done any games for the Wii here, just so we get a sense? Yeah. So you understand there's a little bit of pain involved in putting that together, and some of your expectations have to be lowered with the amount of cool stuff that you can do with the Wii, because I think until Wii Motion Plus ships in spring next year, I think we're still sort of battling with some hardware that is yet to see its full potential, which is a very polite way of saying it felt very broken when we started playing with it. So I think what we wanted to try and do was go, well, if it's not really the Wii-ness that's going to be the thing, what is the thing that is going to work as a Wii title? So it was, I think, really trying to identify what that audience was for this game. And I think it's still a little bit of a mystery for people who the Wii audience is, because I think Nintendo have evangelized the platform as the platform that makes a game out of everyone. Anyone can pick up a Wii. I think if you've taken it to a family function or a Christmas event or something like that, we've all seen the miracle of relatives that have never played a game picking up a controller and going, well, this is cool, I can play a game. And so I think we really wanted to tap into that, and also having made a number of titles before, I think we're very conscious of not falling into a development trap that exists, which is to start to identify the game as something that you're making for yourself, something that you want to play yourself, rather than something that you are specifically targeting for an audience out there. And so obviously that's difficult to emulate. Well, what is it that the rest of the world thinks, particularly people who don't play games? But I think that gave us some very sort of interesting sort of key points to start with. We wanted to make a game that didn't feel very much like a game. We wanted it to have, I guess, gaming tropes that would be familiar to gamers, but also have a lot of things in it that made it feel very effortless in a Wii Sports kind of way for a player to get a reward and to get a feeling of excitement when they're playing the game. In terms of the Wii-ness, we played around with a whole range of different sort of motion controls. We started out with this idea, which was a little bit crazy. We wanted to do everything on the Wiimote, and mainly with the idea of being able to hold a beer in the other hand. Now we found that actually playing around with the accelerometer as the way to control